start my short presentation about the Austrian ideas for united Europe. Due to the strict management of time, I will focus only on a few examples. So my presentation is a short summary of my article. Let's start with Chapter 1, Habsburg Plans for Europe before World War I. The French Revolution, the coalitions wars, and the downfall of the Holy Roman Empire caused a new order in Europe. This new order, represented by a European restoration, has been the declared goal of the Vienna Congress 1814-15 and intended to establish political stability and peace in Europe. In those days, there were also alternative concepts for Europe originating from Austria that sought to create peace. Quote Jana Osterkamp: "The territorially complex, multi-confessional and polyethnically structured Habsburg monarchy was, until its downfall in 1918, one of the most innovative places of contemplation about federally orientated states formation." Quote ends. This concept described the role of the Habsburg monarchy within the German Confederation, also known as Central Europe conceptions, and how the Habsburg monarchy could have been redesigned. For example, State Chancellor Clemens Wenzel Lothar, Prince of Metternich, presented a plan to reorganize the Habsburg monarchy into parts with equal rights and proposed the following division: Bohemia, Moravia, Galicia, Inner Austria, Illyria, Lombardo-Venetia, Hungary and Transylvania. These areas were intended to exist autonomously and independently in relation to the emperor, united by a strong central administrative body. Other example would be the Viennese lawyer and minister Franz Sommaruga. He proposed a constitutional draft that suggested to unite the members of the German Confederation into a 70 million empire. Accordingly, the German Confederation and the Habsburg monarchy would form a confederation, with the Habsburg monarchy federally structured into the following states: the states of the German Confederation, Austria, Galicia, Lombardo-Venetia, Hungary, with the Slovaks, Illyria. Following US, American and Swiss models, the Austrian parliament would be organized as a two-chamber system. External affairs, defense, financial, trade and infrastructural policies would be national ministers. The educational system, civil and criminal law, as well as administrative organizations would be uniform within the Habsburg monarchy. Further competences would be in the hands of the respective county groups. Furthermore, the Austrian Minister of Commerce, Karl Ludwig Freiherr von Bruck, suggested a Central European customs unification, which was to align not only the customs, but also the monetary and tax systems of the German customs union and Austria. At the end of the day, this idea did not prevail. However, Bruck's plans were at least partially realized in a trade and customs treaty between the member states of the customs union and Austria in 1865. Although this treaty was later referred as Königgrätz of trade policy. As you know, the Battle of Königgrätz was a great military disaster for the monarchy. And please note, the idea of Central Europe, conceptualized in the narrower sense as economic cooperation between Austria and Germany, should resurface in the interwar period as so-called Schober-Curtius plan in 1931. Among the plans to reorganize the Habsburg monarchy, the Romanian journalist and politician Aurel Popovici stands out. Popovici was a member of the Belvedere Circle. This elitist circle, referred to by Jana Osterkamp as Federalist think tank, was founded by Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Just like the Archduke, Popovici saw a real opportunity in the federation of the imperial and royal monarchy to overcome the problem of nationality, especially in regard to the Hungarians, Czechs and Serbs. Popovici was convinced that the monarchy was the right state form for this aim and tried to unite the supranational idea that characterized the Danube monarchy with the idea of nationality. In 1906, he drew on the model of the Republican Democratic Constitution of the US to draft his own constitution named Foundation of a Federalist Imperial Constitution. He called this federal state the United States of Greater Austria. Under the rule of Franz Joseph, this state was envisaged to comprise 15 autonomous nation-states: German Austria, German Bohemia, German Moravia, Western Galicia, Eastern Galicia, Transylvania, Croatia, Caniola, Slovakia, Vojvodina, Hungary, Sacklerland, Trento and Dresde, with the exception of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Further articles contains all citizens of the 15 autonomous national states or citizens of Austria. The United States of Greater Austria will form a common customs area. The emperor would exert the imperial power. Each national state would have its own parliament, government and court, and its own constitution, but confirmed by the Austrian emperor. Each national state has its own language. The common international language is German. With the help of this map, you can see how the United States of Greater Austria looked like from Popovici's point of view. Towards the 19th century, not only plans for a federalist Central Europe or for a Habsburg Europe en miniature were developed in the Austrian-Hungarian monarchy. At the Peace Congress in Bern, Switzerland, in 1892, the pacifist Bertha von Suttner, she became the first female Nobel Peace Prize winner in 1905, together with the Englishman Samuel Kappa and the Italian Teodoro Moneta, presented the so-called Kappa-Moneta-Suttner proposal about the creation of a European confederation. Bertha von Suttner tried to promote the unification of European states, which should be formed on the basis of legal regulations and the sovereignty of individual states. And here you can see the very short proposal based on legal regulations instead of violence, as you can see here and read. Later on, the outbreak of World War I made such ideas obsolete. Emperor Karl's Imperial Manifest of 16th October 1918 could not stop the Habsburg monarchy from falling apart within only a few days from the end of October 1918 onwards. Claiming the right to self-determination, demanded by Woodrow Wilson in his 15-point program, the Austrian German-speaking delegates of the Reichsrat, the parliament, the Austrian parliament, formed the Provisional National Assembly on 21st October and proclaimed the Republic of German Austria on 30th October 1918. This now leads us to Chapter 2. Vienna of the interwar period becomes the center of the United States of Europe. While at the Vienna Congress, Metternich had seen the balance of power as fundamental for a peaceful state system, the outcome of the First World War significantly changed this political concept. At the Paris Peace Conference of 1919, the victorious powers tried to replace hegemonial and imperialist power ambitions through internationalism and therefore founded the League of Nations. This first international peace organization assumed its work at the beginning of January 1920. Europe lost its dominant position and found itself between the economically striving US and the Bolshevist USSR. Hence, it was necessary to position the European continent between the two newly emerging world powers to guarantee that Europe would become itself a world power again. In order to pursue this goal, Richard Nikolaus Coudenhove-Kalergi, descendant of an old Austrian noble family, developed the concept of pan-Europa, pan-Europe, a plan for the unification of all European states. Short note, Coudenhove-Kalergi was never citizen of the Republic of Austria, but a Czechoslovakian citizen from 1919 and a French citizen from 1939 till his death. In the following, Coudenhove and Pan-Europe will be sketched briefly. After preparing the literary propagandistic ground for his idea with the book Pan-Europe published in 1923, Coudenhove-Kalergi started building the Pan-European headquarters in Vienna's Hofburg and further Pan-European unions in almost all European capitals and in 1926 even in New York. The Pan-European movement was registered as a society in Vienna in 1926. Coudenhove-Kalergi's Pan-Europe was indeed original, if not revolutionary, because he was the first to propose realizing the idea of Europe in the following steps. Firstly, a European government, the Pan-European Conference, should be summoned. Secondly, the conclusion of arbitration and guarantee agreements among all future member states of Pan-Europe were planned. Thirdly, a customary union should be formed. Fourthly, the idea should eventually culminate in the establishment of the United States of Europe with a European constitution. The advantages of this federation, according to Coudenhove-Kalergi, were, for example, the avoidance of an inner European war, which he feared would break out between Germany and France. He therefore advocated a reconciliation between Germany and France. A unified Europe would also serve to protect from an invasion by Red or White Russia and would further be able to compete with the American and British industries as well as the future East Asian and Russian economy. Coudenhove-Kalergi imagined the creation of a European Economic and Monetary Union as well as a politically united Europe with common external security and defense policies. Pan-Europe was intended to include all democratic European states and all non-European possessions, the colonies, with the exception of Great Britain because of its transatlantic relation in the Commonwealth of Nations, and with the exception of the Soviet Union because of Bolshevism. This map shows the division of the world into power blocks, to 5 power blocks, of which Pan-Europe with the colonies is to form one. In 1927, the French Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Aristide Briand became president of the Pan-European movement. You see him next to Coudenhove, in the middle. Standing back in the left, you see Paul von Auer, president of Pan-European Union of Hungary. Pan-European interwar period, till the outbreak of World War II. Firstly, Coudenhove tried to unify Europe on a political way. Therefore, he organized Pan-European congresses first in Vienna 1926, but also in Berlin or Basel. He published the monthly newspaper Pan-Europe since 1924, or designed the Pan-European logo, a red cross within a golden background, stands for humanity and enlightenment. After the rejection of Brion's Memorandum 1930, the fall of the Pan-Europe movement starts, and soon after Adolf Hitler had become Reichschancellor on 30th January 1933, the Pan-European movement was prohibited in Germany. At that time, Coudenhove-Kalergi intensified his contact with the Austrian government under Engelbert Dollfuss and changed the movement's orientation. Its focus should not longer be on creating a political but an economic union of European states. Thus, Coudenhove-Kalergi organized economic and agrarian congresses in Vienna. And these congresses also visited Elmer Hantos, for example. The political and economic situation in Europe now increasingly came to a crisis, which is why Coudenhove-Kalergi once again changed the direction of the Pan-European movement. From 1936 onwards, it focused on uniting Europe on a cultural level. In the night before 12th March 1938, on which Austria was annexed by Germany, he managed to escape to Czechoslovakia in time. From there, he got via Italy to Switzerland. On 3rd August 1940, Coudenhove-Kalergi, together with his family, left Europe from Lisbon and went to exile in the United States of America. Working in New York, he continued to pursue his idea of Pan-Europe. It would be wrong to assume that only one idea for a united Europe was developed in interwar Austria. Already before the establishment of Pan-Europe, the Austrian publicist Karl Anton Rohan founded the Kulturbund in Vienna in 1922. This cultural association aimed to promote the union of Europe with Great Britain and Russia on a cultural level in order to be able to leave the constraints of nation, class, race, politics and confession behind. Until 1934, Rohan organized yearly congresses all across Europe. For example, Thomas Mann, Hugo von Hofmannsthal, Paul Valéry or Max Beckmann visited the congresses, and many European intellectuals and artists published in Rohan's Europäische Revue, like Picasso or Rodin. By the way, the last Congress of the Kulturbund was held in Budapest. The outbreak of the Second World War backgrounded the idea of Europe but did not manage to completely erase it. Within World War II, many resistance fighters composed plans for a united Europe after the war. For example, the fighters of the Italian Resistenza or French Resistance. Resistance fighters from Austria, on the other hand, concentrated exclusively on the fight against the Nazi terror. Chapter 3, and the last chapter, from the post-war period until 2004. After the end of Second World War, Winston Churchill initiated the process of European integration with his famous Zurich speech of September 1946. In the same year, Richard Coudenhove-Kalergi founded the European Parliamentary Union. The unification of Europe was intended to be started by members of European parliaments, albeit without participation of occupied Austria. In 1954, he renewed the Pan-European movement in German Baden-Baden. 2 years earlier, in 1952, the first step of unifying European states started with founding the European Community of Steel and Coal. The further steps from the foundation of the European Economic Community in 1957 until nowadays are well known to all of us. In Austria, which only regained its state sovereignty in 1955 and started firstly in 1963 as founding member of the European Free Trade Association to apply for accession to the European Community, it was Erhard Busek, Vice Mayor of Vienna and later Vice Chancellor, who started the discussion about Central Europe. against the background of the Prague Spring in 1968, he rekindled the discourse on Central Europe in the 1970s and 1980s. Buzek traveled to Central and Eastern Europe and launched activities in the field of education and culture. As Michael Gehler said, he represented an anti-Naumann as Central Europe with Vienna, Prague and Budapest, and without Berlin. In 1989, Erhard Buzek had co-initiated the Central European Initiative in Budapest. It currently has 18 member states. In the same year, 1989, the foreign ministers of Austria and Hungary, Alois Mock and György Horn, cut apart a piece of the Iron Curtain between Austria and Hungary. All of us know the very famous photo, I think so. This happened on 27th of June. A few weeks later, mid-July, Austria formally applied to become a member of the European Union. On 19 August 1989, under the patronage of Otto Habsburg and the Hungarian minister Imre Bocskai, the Pan-European Movement Austria organized a Pan-European picnic. On this occasion, the borders between Austria and Hungary were opened for a few hours at St. Margarethen Burgenland. This picnic, the severance of the fence at the border between Austria and Hungary and later between Austria and Czechoslovakia by Alois Mock and Jiří Dienstbier, can be seen as decisive moments in regard to the collapse of the Eastern Bloc system. Austria has been a member of the European Union since 1995 and welcomed its enlargement since 2004. Due to their historical relations with Austria as neighboring state, some of these new member states countries have become highly attractive and important partners for Austria in political, economic and cultural terms. For Austria, the European Community and later European Union has become since 1986 a place for longing. 9 years later, as I mentioned, Austria joined the European Union. However, one needs to mention that visions for Europe originating from Austria became rare. Coming to the end of today's lecture, we can draw the following conclusions. Firstly, until the end of World War I, ideas of Europe originating from Austria, either federalist conceptions of Central Europe presenting a Europe en miniature, or plans to reshape the Habsburg monarchy. Only the first female Nobel Prize winner, Bertha von Suttner, composed the proposal of an European Confederation. Secondly, after World War I, metropolitan Vienna became a starting point and laboratory for implementing the European vision. Richard Nikolaus Coudenhove-Kalergi, founder of Pan-Europe, was the first visionary of Europe trying to turn this idea into reality, and thus he became immortal. Thirdly, being member of the European Union since 1995, visions for Europe originating from Austria became, like mentioned before, rare. Thanks for your attention and good luck.